It's Philly, it's Seattle this upcoming Saturday. Hopefully, Jose Brujo Martinez doesn't throw his body around. But right now, we're going to look at this match, and we'll be joined with our dear friend here, Niko Moreno of Pulso Sports. Nico, what's up, Papa? How are we feeling today?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just excited to be on in Philly, man. That's the one city in the East that I haven't been able to really get out and one, go to a game, two, talk to. Usually is Miami's, Atlanta, Columbus, the cities I typically do shows on. So I'm excited to be a first timer in Philly right now.
Wow, we get to be your first. Well, then let us formally welcome you to PHY Union, but also to the Phillies fan base. It's nice to have you here. It's nice to have you here. Listen, this matchup, you've got two teams. Most importantly, I think the biggest part of this, looking for a win in MLS play. Two teams that have had some frustrating starts. You look at the first two games for Seattle in the tie to Austin and that 2-1 loss. I actually watched that game versus LAFC that they dropped 2-1. What's kind of the behind the scenes going on with the Sounders right now in terms of the struggles that you're dealing with? We know our struggles on this side that we've talked about on the offensive side specifically. What are the struggles that are happening right now in Seattle with the Sounders?
Well, the struggle starts with health and not having your main squad out there. I mean, you've had the start of the season without four clear starters: Jaymar Gomez Andrade, Joe Paulo, Albert Rusnak, Stefan Fry, who is a legend down here. So those four guys have not been available. And then when out of those two games that were underwhelming, there was one silver lining by the name of Pedro de la Vega, and now he's out 6 to 8 weeks. Just things don't look great. So that's where the struggle starts, is the fact that you don't have the main guys out there. And number two is the frustration with not being able to put the ball in the back of the net. Jordan Morris is in a bit of a funk. It's just being unable to finish in front of goal. This team has generated 19 shots per game, has over 50% of possession in both of those games, and yet have not been able to score. I understand LAFC, that's your game one, that's a tough team, but then you play Austin that doesn't really have much going for themselves, and still at home you're unable to score. So that's where the struggles have been for the Rave Green so far.
Oof. Nico, so with that being said, I guess, where does Seattle go from here? Because this is really early on. You guys are going through a lot of these injuries. I mean, do we go in the summer transfer period, start retooling, or what's the plan? Do you think here going forward for Seattle?
I think all things are on the table. Nothing's being dismissed at this point. But knowing that the summer window is still a bit away, I would say that the outlook from some of us here in the Sounder beat, as well as what we're starting to hear from Brian, is that Raul Ruiz, a guy that he's been the main man for a very long time in this franchise, but has come from two of his worst seasons because of injuries, because of a bunch of things that really have handicapped his play. He is a guy that's looked really good, really sharp. He's a guy that in link-up play has been fantastic. Jordan Morris called them kind of playing as a 10 lately, which was interesting. Something that you might not hear about Raul Ruiz is him playing as a 10, but it's just the creative ability of someone that's coming back, playing in the half spaces, being able to generate. So that's one component. Number two, Seattle's going to have to start trusting a lot of these young guys. When you look at the bench, you got guys that maybe don't have a lot of MLS minutes, but there's quality there. You got a guy like Danny Leyva, who's a fantastic passer, Paul Rothrock, that came into the league and scored a couple of goals. You got to give guys like Dylan Teves, who had a really good preseason, the guy out of UW, some minutes, and figure out who are the guys that are going to have to become consistent contributors for you to get past this really, really rough time.
Yeah. It sounds a little familiar, actually, with some of the things that you're saying, unfortunately, because it mirrors some issues that are going on with the Philadelphia Union, especially in this early part of the season. Definitely was saddened to see the news. I never want to see a player out with an injury, and I saw the news about Pedro de la Vega out with that hamstring injury. But, Nico, as you're talking through about the injuries, looking to bring in some more around the youth, what about on the defensive side? What is it about this group? Because they have been under a lot of pressure early on, especially unable to score on the other end, puts a lot defensively on them. Talk a little bit more about the defensive side of the game for the Sounders.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because it's not all bad. I mean, at the end of the day, you are at least getting a point at home, and you didn't really get beat down by LFC because you do have some good pieces in the defensive end. I want to say that that's been the baseline, the real fort for this team over the last couple of seasons is a strong defense. So although Yemer Gomez-Andrade, who's the best defender for this team, has not been there, there's experienced guys like Javier Arriaga, who has experience with the national team of Ecuador. He's experienced here in MLS, and he's done a good job at coming in when his number is called, not shied away from anything, and just look really good. Right next to a guy, Jackson Reagan, who ironically enough took his spot a year ago. So now he's playing along with him. Nuhu, who is considered one of the best one-on-one defenders in MLS, has done well. And the young guys that are playing the center midfield position also doing a lot of that work, right? Josh Atencio is a guy that's really come up over the last year. He got his first U.S. men's national team cap this year, and that physicality, that range play, that ability to stay compact has helped this team. Now, I'm not going to shy away from saying that maybe some of that success has been against an Austin team that doesn't really challenge you a lot in the midfield, doesn't really challenge you much up top. I mean, I think there should be a warrant out for Regani for the money he's stolen from Austin FC, because he's just been pretty close to a bust signing ever since has been with Austin FC. So there's just not a lot going on for Austin. So that's part of it. But I will say that in general senses, the Seattle Sounders, as long as I can remember, have been solid defensively. And now they're going to go into Philly with some really tough matchups there with Ura and Gostag. So they're going to have to be on their game to really keep this game in line.
Absolutely, Nico. So on that too, look, you guys obviously are dealing with injuries, but what is this team missing the most besides obviously healthy players?
I think it's goals and spark, creativity. There was a point where this team always had a guy that could resolve a game. You know, you knew that no matter what, Nicolas Odero was going to put it away. He was going to take over. When things get tough, he's going to get it done. Raul Ruiz at one point was that guy. Clint Dempsey, Obafemi Barnes. I mean, there's always been a guy. Right now, there just isn't that guy. Raul's still here, but this is a Raul that is doing some different things. His confidence has been shot, man, because he was really relegated into the bench last season. He was relegated to play with nothing but the young guys throughout the preseason. And now I think he's kind of saying, here I am. I've kind of done my dues, and I'm ready to score. I'm ready to perform. So I think it's just the spark, that X factor of eliteness that a lot of teams have. I'm not saying everybody has a Dennis Bouanga in their squad, but, you know, there's always a guy that you can count on to really take over a game. And Seattle currently doesn't have that. Could it be Raul Ruiz, who is my candidate for comeback player of the year? Perhaps. Is it Jordan Morris when he maybe gets off this funk? Or, you know, Pedro when he comes back. But I think that's what's going on right now, is there's just not that elite factor up top.
Nico, are you sure this is your first time on the show? Because everything you are saying, even though it's about Seattle, is exactly what we've been saying about the Philadelphia Union. It's like you've been here before. Your problems are our problems. Injuries, needing somebody to step up, needing the defense being the backbone of the team. It's seeming like this is a matchup of two very similar teams, even down to needing to rely more on the youth. Honestly, everything you've outlined, it's like giving me chills. And I know our producer's kind of chuckling too, because we have actually been saying the exact things, almost word for word, that you're saying are the issues for the Sounders. Let's see if this continues, because I did notice one difference that I saw in the first two games for Seattle. Of course, in that loss to LAFC, 16 shots to LAFC 17. You mentioned the shooting, 23 shots in that scoreless draw against Austin. You know, what is it that in the final third has been keeping those near good try types of chances, those opportunities from being goals that you feel like can change maybe in the short term to help this team be able to score goals?
I just think it's repetition. It's getting that first goal, is that final decision, that final pass, that final moment. Actually, this whole week, Brian Smetzer said, we're just going to keep these guys doing drills right in front of goal. And we saw Raul do it. We saw Jordan do it. So I think it's just about getting that first one. And it is a little bit about decision making. One thing that you can say about the Seattle Sounders is that right now they're playing with a 4-4-2 that they didn't practice at all preseason. They've always been a 4-2-3-1 team. So the passing patterns, the movements, those change when you have a change of formation. The partnerships have also not been there. I said Raul Diaz had been kind of relegated to play with the younger guys. So now him and Jordan need to start figuring out that chemistry. Christian Roldan has to be a little bit more involved. Leo Chu, he's a guy that gets behind defenses really well. He gets to that end line, but when it comes to the finishing product, he just doesn't quite have it. So I think it's just about continuing to work, continue to create chances, and once the first one goes in, then maybe more come with it. But if I had to just point out one thing, it's just decisions in the final third. Maybe you take a step. Would you take one more step? Maybe you fake the shot. Maybe you put a cross ball and try to find feet in the 18. So it's just about that final third process.
Okay, Niko, I want to take it a little lighthearted. I want to look off the pitch a little bit. You guys did a little bit of a rebrand. It's been a little controversial as well. For you personally, how do you feel about the new kit, the new logo, everything? I already see the face.
Oh man, okay. Here we go.
Go ahead, Niko. Let us know. Let us know, Papa.
I'm not a fan of the kit. I gotta say it. Maybe it's not the most popular answer, and I might get criticized down here, but I just don't like the design. I don't like the stripes. I don't like the way the colors come together. Now, I get it. I understand. It's an homage to where this team started, that first kid, and everything of this Seattle culture that is so deeply ingrained in absolutely everybody in this community, including the players, including the owner. But I just don't like the kit. It's plain and simple. I'm over here trying to, French it up and go around the bush. I just don't like the kit. I really don't. In terms of the rebrand, again, I like the slickness. I think I get what they're trying to do in terms of we don't need to put Sounders FC because just by seeing the logo, you should know. But it's a little generic. It's a little too cold. I would like to see an FC in there, something that says soccer. My daughter, she was like, "Oh, is that just the Space Needle logo?" I was like, "No, it's the new Sounders kid." So, a little bit of that. I wish that it was just a little bit more, had a little bit more warmth and a little bit more of that culture of soccer involved into it, but I get it. I mean, it's slick. It's nice. It looks good on hats. It looks good on shirts. But, in terms of the rebrand in general, I wanted a little bit more.
Yeah, it's ironic you say that because when I look at it, it even still takes me a moment to have to kind of like zoom in and be like, is that the Space Needle? Like, what am I looking at here? Whereas before you at least had the Seattle Sounders FC across it, like you could clearly see, and it did have a little bit more of I always say, like, you want it to look professional, not like something that was easily done. Like, you want it to look very high end.
Like clip art?
Yeah, and this kind of is giving, it looks like a clip art. But I agree with you. I like how you
just don't want something that might be confused with. Like, if you walk down in the gift shop under the Space Needle, you might look, hold up, is that the logo? Which one's the logo? Because, you don't want it to be confused. So I totally get you. And that's kind of where I was going with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm picking up on what you're putting down. My last question, I'm going to keep it light with you too. This should be a quick and easy one for you. Predictions for this weekend. What do you think is going to be the final score in this Saturday matchup between the Union and the Sounders?
If there's something they should know about me, that nothing's quick and easy with me. I'm Colombiano. It's all a big, long rant, so I apologize if I'm killing your airtime here. But I think it's going to be a hard game, tough one. I think Philly gets the win. I just don't think that Seattle has enough tools in their shed. I know that you guys are probably looking, being critical of your own team, and you know it inside and out. But when I look at the experience on that midfield, and whether you rotate or not, you're still going to have guys like Bedoya. You're still going to have Brujo. You're still going to have guys that have been working together longer than maybe this set of players particularly. I think Josh and Ovid Vargas are coming up, and they're players on the rise, but they just don't have the level of experience. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about who you're bringing off the bench to be that game changer, pace changer. You need that revulsivo, what we say in Spanish. You need that guy that's going to come and be a spark plug. And I don't know if they have that right now. So because of that, I think it's going to be a grind, physical game, but I think Philly gets the 1-0 win.
All right, Niko, I have one more for you. This one's a little more selfish. Of course, we got to talk about Cele, Papa. So obviously Copa America in the U.S. this upcoming summer. How excited are you? What do you see from our cafeteros this summer?
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited, but I am kind of I have had mixed feelings because either I enjoy it to the best of my ability as a fan, or I go and cover it, which I gotta limit myself. I gotta not yell. I gotta, you know what I mean. So I'm
I
trying
know
to figure out
exactly what
which
you mean.
route I'm gonna go. I'm honestly, I have not decided that quite yet, but I'm excited. I think Los Cafeteros right now on their Nestor, they continue to win, and they have a lot of talent, but I haven't seen them get challenged. Everybody was hyped on the Brazil game, but the Brazil of today is not the Brazil of always. You know,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
no consistency in coaching, a lot of injuries. There isn't that X factor that they used to have in before, right? No Neymar, no like guy that's just tearing it up completely. Vinicius has some injury problems, so I think we just got to be a little bit more tame. So for me, I'm always a little bit of a realist, and I try to not get so hyped because I've been, you know, how Colombia treats us sometimes. They hype us up. We feel like we own the world, and then all of a sudden, el gol de Yepes no es gol, and then we're out, you know,
Oh.
or
Ouch.
Harry Kane comes in and just ruins it for everybody. So that's why I keep my expectations low, but I'm excited about the event in the States. I think it's going to be a blast. I covered Centenario when it was here. It
Cool.
was fantastic. I expect this to be even bigger. So right before the World Cup is almost a dress rehearsal. So man,
Yeah. Nico, it's like our toxic relationship. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
that's
Everything's
right.
fine.
Don't
This
you?
is fine.
That's what it is.